and amen. On your way down, somebody shout, conquering carnality. I'm not sure if I have ever in my life or in my lifetime, I'm sure it's probably other people have seen it, but in my lifetime, I'm not sure that I have ever seen a moment where people are so utterly stressed out. Stressed out, struggling. They're struggling in their health, struggling in their mental health, struggling in marriages. Marriages are up under attack, struggling with emotional disorders, struggling with singleness, struggling with discontentment, struggling to get ahead or at least get even, struggling, and yet all at the same time, we've never had more ministry available to us than we have today. And so, for the most part, we are just one mouse click away from somebody's ministry, from a podcast, from a church service. You know, there was a day you couldn't just click on and go to any church around the world, but today you can pretty much do that. We've never had more church at our fingertips, more books available, more blogs that we could read, more scripture that we could just click on and go through a daily devotion. There's stuff all over the place that could help us grow by leaps and bounds in God, and yet there is a struggle like I don't know that I've ever seen it on such a level. You turn the news on and you see it on people's faces, and you hear it in people's cry. We smile, we still sing, we still praise. I saw some of you today praise and press through into worship, even though you had to press through pain and tears, and we've got the ability to tap into a glory because we're beginning to understand the glory of God, and that it does cost us something. You can just come in here and enter into praise, and that's just free. But if you're going to really enter into glory, that's ultimately going to cost you something. But isn't glory what we want to enter into? Because all of our needs are supplied according to his riches in what? Glory. So if we're going to be able to have God supply all of our need, then we cannot just tap into praise and we cannot just tap into worship, but we got to tap into his glory. And yet, in spite of all of that is available to us, people still struggle. When we pray the benediction and we turn off the lights and we go into the parking lot and we drive into our house and we go home, many struggle. We can have a great time in church, but we go home and we struggle with discontentment. We go home and we struggle with discouragement, with dissatisfaction. We struggle with a restlessness in us. And all of that bothers me because I don't know how we can be so discontent and yet have so much glory available to us at the same time. I'm just that kid that asked all those kind of crazy questions. How can this thing be? And all of that bothers us. But I want to take the next few moments and just kind of delve into it and see if we can come up with a few answers. And prayerfully, I trust that by the time I'm finished today, that the word that is in my mouth and the word that is in this book right here will help those of us who are willing to be honest and say, yeah, the struggle does get very real from time to time. So let me begin by saying this. Whatever you feed, you'll see flourish. Okay, can you say this after me? Whatever I feed will flourish. Say it again. Whatever I feed will flourish. People who constantly rehearse their problems, who constantly rehearse their difficulties and their challenges and their situations, and people who are constantly telling you and saying what I don't like about this job, and what I don't like about this house, and what I don't like about this marriage, and what I don't like about this church. People who continually rehearse those things discover that they never get better, but they only get worse. Because when you feed negativity, your words and your language and your thoughts, it gives growth and it gives life to those things, because whatever you speak to is what you're going to get more of. If you'll give me just a little high end or something, I feel dead in my mic up here. If you have a child who is always rebellious, always in trouble, and every time you look at them, that's how you address them, you're rebellious, you're a troublemaker, guess what you're going to get more of? You're going to get more of that behavior, because that's what you're speaking to. And where the focus goes, the power flows. Touch somebody, tell them, where the focus goes, the power flows. Let me say it like this. How many of you know we live in 3 dimensions? If you know that, lift up your hand. If you don't be embarrassed. But if you know that, lift it up. Okay, so if you don't know that, then extra, hear all about it today. We live in 3 dimensions. We live in the spirit realm. And in the spirit realm is where we are made alive. It's where we are quickened. And quickened doesn't necessarily mean that kind of thing. You'll say somebody quickened, but that's not exactly what that means. It just means that you are made alive. So we live in the spiritual realm, and we also have a soulish realm. So we have a spirit, we live in the spirit realm, and we live in a soulish realm. The soulish realm is the emotional, it's the mental, it's the memories, it's the scars, it's the wounded areas where we struggle in our mind. And it's the soulish realm is often where the clutter in our life gathers together, all right? It's like the junk drawer in your house. You know, does anybody have a junk drawer in your house? See, I love that. Y'all are some junky Christians. I love it. I'm not the only one. But we have a junk drawer, and we recently moved, and we were not physically in that house until we had a junk drawer. We had a junk drawer going before we ever actually moved in. It's the junk drawer. It's where everybody comes in and drops everything into that drawer. Pretty soon that all begins to build up, and next thing, you don't even know what all you got in there, because you got so much in there, you can't even see what is in the drawer. It is the collection point. That's what the soul is. The soul is the collection point. It is the drop-off zone. The soul accumulates. The soul becomes the gathering place. And it collects so much because it gathers things from your spirit. It gathers things from the spirit realm. And by that, what I mean is, like, all of a sudden, you know something. You don't even know how you know it. You just know. You ever been there? You're like, I know that. As sure as I know my name, I know that thing right there. You don't know how you know, but I'll tell you how you know, because your spirit knows, and your spirit talks to you, and it lets you know, and now you just know things. And so what you're doing is you're getting that information from your spirit. Your spirit sends signals to your soulish man. It sends signals to your mind, and all of a sudden you know what you didn't know 2 minutes ago. So not only does your soul collect things from your spirit, but it also collects things from your body, because we are a trichotomous being. We are spirit, we are soul, and we are body. That means we live in 3 dimensions. Now, we often hear it like that. We often hear spirit, soul, and body, but it's important for us to get the order correct and understand that it's body, soul, and spirit. Can you say that? Body and spirit. The reason it's body is because body is the first dimension. Body is the first dimension. Your soul is the second dimension, and your spirit is the third dimension. So the body represents the outer court. It represents the front yard of who you are, and the soul represents the holy place, and your spirit represents the Holy of Holies. In the outer court, or in the body, that's where all of your senses are, and that's where they gather information. It's like, for example, your ear gate, your eye gate, your smell gate, whatever it is, all of those gates, okay? So I could be talking to you, I could be having a conversation with you, and while I'm talking to you, somebody can walk by us, and even though you're hearing me, you see them because your eye gate saw them, and your eye gate took in that moment. Your eye gate picks them up. They can come in and they can sit down next to you. They can lean over and touch you while I'm talking to you, but you can hear me, and yet you feel that touch. You feel that. It's your senses. It's coming in through your touch gate. They can be wearing the best cologne, and while I'm talking to you, you can be listening to me thinking, I wonder what they're wearing because that smells so good. And so because your smell gate has taken all of that in. So are you following me? Your mind is taking all of this information in, and it's all coming in through your senses. And because your mind can be your junk drawer, your mind can be your gathering place, your mind can be the holding tank for what your senses are bringing in, it gets in there and it lodges in there. That's why you can go through an incident, and long after the incident is over, your mind still holds on to what it gathered when it was going through the incident. Are y'all following me? People can tell you, they can tell you negative things as a child. They can say you're nothing, you're never going to grow up to be anything at all. And you can be full grown and still be affected by what they said to you when you were a child. Why? Because your mind, your junk drawer, took it all in, and it still holds it. It took in what your ears allowed to come in, and it still holds it in place. People can say things to us. They can walk away and say, you'll never be nothing because I'm getting ready to leave you. And yet we remember that, and our mind collects it, and it becomes, our mind becomes the baggage, all the excess baggage of what happened to us back then. And we keep remembering it. And the person that said it to you could have hurt you deeply, and it could have been 30 years ago, but you're still carrying it because your ear gate, your eye gate, your touch gate, your smell gate took it all in. And they can die, and you can still be controlled by the things that they did and the things that they said. Come on, help me, church. Come on, help me, church. Help me, sound man. Help me, church. I said some of you are struggling today with things that you heard 20 years ago. The person is dead and gone. That's why you can't wait for people to apologize to you. Whenever they hurt you and offend you, you got to forgive them, even if they never apologize to you, because what happens if they die? You're going to live the rest of your life tormented by what somebody said? The devil is a liar. I am not going to live my life tormented by what somebody said to me who is 6 feet under. Y'all better help me. Look at somebody and tell them, I ain't living like that. I ain't living it. It's crazy because it's over. It's over. But your soulish realm has taken it all in. And this is why we can't wait for people to apologize. The minute they mess you up and push you around, you need to say, you know what, I forgive them, and I'm going to get over it, because if I don't, they will always be in control. In the grave, but in control of me. The devil is a liar. Because when that happens, whatever they did or whatever they said, it becomes a snare to us. And whenever your mind, whenever it becomes a trap for us. And the enemy will often set people up when they are young, so that he'll set them up when they are young, so that as they grow older, they will find themselves in the trap and they will never become everything that God has called them to become. So you got to make up in your mind, I don't care who said what, I will be free. I said I will be free. Somebody ought to put that in the atmosphere right now. I will be free. I will be, say it again, I will be free. I will be free. Why? Because my soul has escaped the snare of the fowler. That's what the Bible said. Your soul, the thing that's holding all that baggage can escape the snare, the trap that the person laid, the fowler set for you. So you got to let it go. You got to forget it. Number one, you got to let that thing go. You got to forgive them. And when you do, it puts you back in control of your life and not them. Look at somebody and tell them, take control of your soul. Tell them, take control of your soul. So what you allow to be collected, what you allow to be rehearsed, what you allow to go over and over and over and over in your mind will eventually affect every area of your life. For to be carnally minded is death. I said to be carnally minded is death. So what does it mean to be carnally minded? It means to be fleshly minded. It means you allow your mind to be affected by what your senses perceive. Let me say that again. It means it allows your mind to be effective by what your senses and your flesh is perceiving. When your mind is full of what your senses have brought into you, that's how you become carnally minded, okay? You following me? And for those of you who feel like the message today is irrelevant to you because you are saved, let me quickly remind you that when God saved you, he saved your spirit. He did not save your body. Okay, because had he saved your body, you wouldn't grow old, you wouldn't lose a hair, you wouldn't have a wrinkle. He did not save your body, he saved your spirit. As a matter of fact, your spirit is saved, your soul is being saved, and your body shall be saved. Say that with me. My spirit is saved. My soul is being saved, and my body shall be saved. That's why you can be saved in your spirit, shout, dance, holler, be the loudest person in the church, run all over the building, and go home and be miserable. And your kids just want to know, where is my dad that was at church? Where's my mom that was at church? Because listen, don't think just because people run all over the building and dance that they are actually happy. Hello? Just because you run all over the building does not mean that you are happy and you have peace. As a matter of fact, sometimes it's a sign that you don't have peace. Y'all ain't gonna say nothing in here, but it's the truth. It could be that people are running in an attempt to escape all of the pressure that's going on in their mind. Their nerves are shot, they are overwhelmed, their heart's broken, and they're rocking and they're reeling because life has knocked the wind out of them. And they get into church and they find a way to escape all of that. Can I tell you, some of the craziest people I have ever met in my life are those radical, running, loud, shouting, fall outs. They will knock you out. You build a circle around them. They'll take the ushers out. They'll take everybody out. And we think it's because they're deep. They are not deep. They might just be a little crazy. I'm not saying that God won't knock you out. I'm not saying that you ain't got a right to run. All of that, you got to hear it. Don't separate my words from my spirit. That's what I'm going to ask you to do today. Because I realize there are times that we run, but everybody that's running ain't running because they have peace. No, they come to church, they run, they holler, and they go home, and they are on the verge of having a mental breakdown. Think about this. As a matter of fact, some of the most common behaviors in people that have totally flipped out and totally lost their mind is that they will sit and they will rock and they will quote scriptures. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Come on now. You know, they'll say, hi, my name is Joseph. My name is Abraham. My name is Moses. Because they're so religiously minded, and they're so used to being deep. They're deep, but they don't have peace. And now hear that. Being deep does not necessarily mean that you have peace. It does mean, however, that you're looking for it, that you're after something, that you're looking for something to anchor you, that you're looking for a rock to steady you, that you're looking for a place that will build you up and hold you in place from time to time. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you found it. You understand that? So to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. And if we are not careful about what we allow to come into our minds on a consistent basis, before you know it, our mind, our soulish realm is filthy. Yes, I'm talking to church folk. It is filthy. I'm not necessarily talking about filthy because of immoral thoughts, even though that is true. I'm not necessarily talking about filthy because of pornography or lust or adultery or fornication. I'm talking about filthy and cluttered with stress, with anxiety, with worry, with trauma, with grief, and with fear. No, you don't smoke, and no, you don't do drugs, and no, you don't curse, and no, you don't kill, and you don't steal, and you don't fornicate, and you don't commit adultery. But that does not mean that you are always clean in your spirit. You can be morally pure and still have a nasty spirit. You might not commit adultery, but you sure talk about everybody else that does. Full of anger, full of bitterness, full of unforgiveness, full of envy, full of strife, full of jealousy, full of prejudice, full of pride, full of all of that kind of stuff. And those kind of things can live a long time in the church because they're not easily detected. You can hide those things, and you can hide them pretty well. So that means you can dress holy, you can look holy, you can wear the right length of dress, you can wear the right tie, you can talk holy, and you can stay away from unholy places. But you're filled with bitterness, and you're filled with strife, and you're filled with envy. I've seen a lot of people who struggle, the kind of people who do struggle morally, and yet they can be some of the kindest, some of the most loving. They might be in a gang, but if they think you need help, they will come and they will help you. They will protect you. If you need food, they'll be happy to give you money. They might turn around and kill somebody, but they're going to give you money so that you can eat. You understand what I'm saying? They have a lot of issues. But see, religious people, it doesn't matter. You can be hungry, you can be thirsty, but they are so dogmatic and so religious that they wouldn't spit on you if you were on fire. Does anybody know people like that? Telling you, I saw this one woman walk up to she was very religious. I grew up, she was my Sunday school teacher in church. She was very religious, and I watched her when Bishop's mother and father came to pastor the church I grew up in. They had a little bit of an edge on them, and my mother-in-law would wear pearls. but we didn't wear pearls when I was coming up, okay? But when my mother-in-law, the pastor's wife, wore pearls, I remember it was winter in Detroit, and you know, they wear galoshes. I don't know if y'all know what that is, but all y'all from Chicago, you know what I'm talking about. But she had her galoshes in her hand and backed my mother-in-law into a corner, slapping those galoshes, telling her, you better get that mess off of your neck. Those pearls are not of God. Just talking trash to her. That was my Sunday school teacher. From that day forward, I knew I never wanted to be religious, because I determined from that. I watched my mother-in-law cry all over a string of pearls. If you're watching today, Miss, sorry. God is not happy about that, I know. How about this? This is way bigger than her pearls. But guess what? I love Jesus with all of my heart. I said I love Jesus with all of my heart. I made up in my mind to love Jesus, to always love Jesus and never be religious, because religion does not equate relationship. I said religion does not equate relationship. It's possible to have religion with church and never have relationship with God. Oh, I should have killed every religious spirit in here. To be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. What I want us to understand is that whatever we feed, that is what is going to grow. So if you are always feeding your mind, if you're always feeding your flesh, if you're always feeding carnality, if you're always feeding on gossip and sensual kind of stuff, then you can be sensual and not be sexual, okay? So don't get those two things confused. Your senses are what you know, taste, touch, see, smell, hear, all of those things. You can, if you're always catering to those kind of things, then that is what is going to grow in your life. And there's no sense in wondering why you don't have life and peace when all you do is feed your carnality and feed your flesh. How could you have peace when you are always in the middle of everybody's gossip? Did you, child, I tell you, I'm going to tell you what I heard. This is what I heard. You know, they're about to lose that house. They're about to lose that car. She is about to lose her job. I know that for a fact. And when you're feeding on all of that stuff and you become part of all of that stuff, how in the world do you think you're supposed to have peace? You will never have peace like that. You can't feed that stuff to yourself and to your flesh and then expect to have peace. Anytime you eat more of the world than you do of the word, you have eaten an unhealthy diet. Hello, you can't feed on gossip more than you do on prayer, more than you do on praise, more than you do on worship, more than you do on the presence of God, and still think that you are going to grow a healthy spirit. No, you are carnally minded, and being carnally minded is going to lead us to nothing but death. Death in our dreams, death in our families, death in our desires, death in our careers. Somebody ain't got enough sense to realize the reason you're losing like you are right now is because God's trying to get your attention and tell you you need to start feeding your spirit life, joy, health, peace, my presence, my glory, instead of getting caught up in everything that's going around you. The very reason that many people are struggling to find peace is not because of their marital status. It's not because of their spouse. It's not because of their looks. It's not because of their age. It's not because of their career. It's not because of their financial status. It's because our minds are filled with clutter. And if we are supposed to, according to the Bible, to think on whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is lovely, and whatsoever is of a good report, but instead we are thinking on whatsoever is impure and unholy and unlovely and of a bad report. No wonder we don't have any peace. We need to find a place in God. Let all of that go. Lay it all down. Cast it on the Lord and say, Lord, look, whatever you do with that mess over there, it's totally up to you. You're God. You do with it what you will do with it. It's not even my business, God. It is your business. And I'm turning it back over into you today. And as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. We will love the Lord. So the challenge that we face, church, is we've got to build up that part of our lives. And for many of us, the flesh part of our life is too strong, and the spirit part of our life is too weak. And the telltale sign that you are a weakling in your spirit is when you fail to embrace God in worship. I'm trying. You're here, you sing, you stand, but you never really engage because you get bored too quick. You're like, I wish they'd wrap it up. I wish they'd wrap it up. You like the idea of it, but you don't get out of it what other people get out of it. But that's because your spiritual muscles are underdeveloped. Hello. I said your spiritual muscles, your mind is trying to turn back, and your mind is trying to turn you away from spiritual things. And so your mind gets a thought and it wanders, and you are all the way into next week while we're singing the praises of God, and you're clapping, but your mind is not here. Another sign is that you are spiritually weak is that you don't like prayer. If I ask you to pray, you can pray for 2 minutes, and after that you're like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. You become more conscious of your physical body than you do of your relationship and your communication with God. And the only time we really do like prayer is when we get in trouble. And when we get in trouble, we will come and we will pray hard, okay? We will pray hard because we are more into building up that which is sensual, that which we feel, than we are into building up that which is spiritual. So it's easier for you to talk to people that you can see than it is for you to talk to a God that you cannot see. So we spend more time talking to our fake friends on Facebook than we do talking to our Father who gave his only begotten Son that we would even have a voice to talk. Come on, y'all. And many times it's not that you don't love God, because you do. And it's not that you don't, it's not that it's not that you don't like the singing and you don't like the music, because you do. The problem is you just don't enjoy it because you are spiritually malnourished. And so you do it, but you do it out of religious duty. And anything that you do out of religious duty, you will not do it for long because you don't enjoy it. You're not doing it because you enjoy it. You're doing it out of religious duty. But the Bible said in Hebrews 5:14, if y'all could pull that up for me, it says, but strong meat belongs to those who are of full age. Somebody say full age. Hebrews 5:14. But strong meat belongs to those who are of full age. That don't mean old people. That just means people who are mature. Those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. Now that's good news right there. It tells me that you can exercise, you can exercise it by using it. And the reason that we're not enjoying it is because we are not really using it. Do you understand what I'm saying? See, when you first start working out, the muscles that you very rarely use, they give you the most pain. Anybody know what I'm talking about? If you got a muscle that you don't very, very rarely use, you can do the slightest bit of work, and the next thing you know, the next morning you are so sore you can't hardly move. Why? Because that muscle is not normally worked out like that, and so anytime you have a muscle that doesn't necessarily get used, your flesh cries out against it. So in order to develop it, you've got to use it. The reason our flesh cries out against praise and real worship and pressing in and going after the glory is because we're not used to doing it. And so because we don't use it, it's our flesh cries out. And let me tell you something, just coming to church and just being a spectator in the house of God will never develop that part of you. And it's not, I said it's not that you don't love God, it's just that you don't know how to really tap in and worship. And it's just many people just don't know how to open up to God. We open up to everything else, some about God. We can't open ourselves up to God. But if you're ever going to make the transition out of the natural and over into the spirit, you've got to be in touch with yourself, and you got to be able to get in touch with God. Because if you don't learn to open up to God, you're going to be bored and you're going to want us to move on real quickly. But do you know what could happen in this room if every last one of us literally tapped in to the presence of God? The power of God would fill this room in such a dimension that the sick couldn't stay sick and the bound couldn't stay bound. Why? Because the glory would fill the house. And we couldn't even stand. But it doesn't work like that because we got people who don't know how to enter in. They don't know how to use that muscle. They don't know how to get before God and be vulnerable and open up and say, God, I need you. I'm not even afraid to say I need you. I ask you, Lord, to kill everything in me that's not like you. You've got to open up your spirit to God. And if you don't, he will never be able to do in your life what he wants to do in your life. I don't care who comes in and prophesies it. It will never happen because you are not willing to make the transition out of the flesh over into the spirit. So we do two things, one of two things. We either open up our spirit or we open up our flesh more and more and more and more. And we are trying to meet a spiritual need with our flesh. You understand what I'm saying? It's like thirst and hunger. I heard one time that they said sometimes we get those two feelings, those two senses, we get them confused. But it's not that we're really hungry, it's just that we're thirsty. And if we would drink, sometimes you got to drink a lot before you understand, no, it wasn't a thirst. It wasn't a thirst craving. I really was hungry. But sometimes you can satisfy that hunger by drinking because really what you are is thirsty. Your body needs water. But here's what we mess up. We keep, instead of giving the body the water it needs, we give it food because that is how we have trained ourselves to respond to that need. We've trained ourselves to respond to that need with food. That's the same way it is with spiritual things. You know something is missing. You know that you're not happy. You know that there's a need. You know that you're frustrated with everybody that's around you. You know that your spouse and your kids and your co-workers and your in-laws are on your very last nerve. And the reason they're on your last nerve is because they are not giving to you what you think you need in the way that you think you need it. So you're trying to get more flesh stuff. You try to get more flesh stuff to feed an inner need. And really what you need is God. You don't need any more flesh stuff. You need to just get alone with God. You are like the woman at the well. You are thirsty. Jesus went to the well. He went to the well to see her because he knew she was thirsty. He knew she'd been married 5 times. He knew that she was living with a man that was not really her husband. He knew that she was living a life by her senses. He knew that she was carnal. He knew that she was religious. He knew that she thought she was a know-it-all. Our Father forefathers worship in the mountains. That's why, imagine her talking to Jesus like that. So he says to her, woman, the hour is come, and now is that they that worship must worship in spirit and in truth. So in order to get what you need, you are going to have to worship in a place that you are not used to, and that place is called the Spirit. Pull on somebody and tell them we're going into the Spirit. And this is where most people miss this thing. And the reason that we don't enjoy it is that real worship requires us to transition out of the natural and over into the spirit. It requires that we're so used to wanting to know everything. I know where I am. I know what's next. I know what's going on. I know who's around me. But when you tap into worship, you tap into something you don't know nothing about. I said you tap into a zone that is unfamiliar to you, and we are so used to having to know everything that's around us that it makes us uncomfortable, and it makes us vulnerable, and it makes us impotent to perform. So therefore, we need to exercise by reason of use our senses in the spirit realm. When was the last time that you did anything to exercise spiritually? I know you go to the gym. I know you lift weights. I know you get on Facebook and Instagram and put your little sexy self out there for everybody to see. I know that. But what I want to know is, when is the last time you put that much effort into exercising your spirit man? Well, it's been a minute, Pastor. Well, that's why your spirit is weak. I said that's why your spirit is weak. That's why you can't worship. That's why you can't press. That's why you have no stamina. That's why you're impotent to perform. You got to exercise in the spirit. Cut the TV off. Cut the computer off. Put the phone down. Sign off of social media and start working on becoming social with your God. When was the last time you were comfortable just being alone with him in his presence? When's the last time you cut everything off? See, a lot of people are uncomfortable with that, so they can only get in there for about a minute, and then they got to turn something on, turn the radio on, turn TV on, do something, because they're uncomfortable being alone with God. So they got to make some kind of racket. But I'm going to tell you, if you can't enjoy just you and God alone, your spirit is weak. And it needs to be exercised. And it needs to work out. And it needs to be trained. If you have a problem with prayer because you run out of things to say, the next time you're on your way to work, get in your car, drive down the road, and practice prayer. Everything you see, pray about it. Lord, I thank you. I thank you for life. I thank you for green trees. I thank you for fruit that grows on trees. I thank you for a highway, Lord. I thank you. I thank you that I'm safe. I thank you. Oh, I thank you that that's a stop sign. It tells me when to stop, and it tells me when to go. Lord, I thank you. I pray for discernment. Practice. Look at somebody and tell them, practice, practice, practice. If you can't be comfortable with being alone with God, then you're in real trouble. You're really immature, and you need to do a work. You need a workout. Okay, I need, real quick, I'm just going to give you this little visual, and then I'm going to be done for today, and hopefully I can pick it up maybe next week. Lana, I want you to come up here. Anna, Rose, Tina, Kristen. No. Cam, I want you to come. Thank you. You come. Okay, let me see. I need you back up. Just Rose, you go with them. Okay, I need Anna, Kristen, and Lana. Back up, everybody back up about 5, 6 feet. Back up a little bit more. I need you 3 to circle around her. Just keep circling. Just keep circling around her. Y'all see this? Tina's at home. She's in her house. She doesn't realize that she's not alone. Y'all, she thinks she's in there all by herself. She doesn't know that the angels of the Lord are encamped round about her. She doesn't know that she's in the presence of the Lord at all times. She doesn't know that she's actually never been alone, that she's never been by herself, and that she's got angels watching out over her and over her stuff. She doesn't know that they were with her this morning when she woke up. She doesn't know that while she was asleep that they were all around her protecting her. She doesn't know that when she got in her car that they got in her car with her. She doesn't know that when she got in a car wreck, they were in the wreck with her, but they preserved her life. She doesn't know that they surrounded her in the storm. She doesn't know that they are protecting her from danger seen and unseen. She doesn't know that the spirit world is all around her because she can't see them, she can't hear them, she can't touch them, she can't smell them, and she can't taste them, and so she ignores them. And she ends up perceiving me as her pastor, somebody on the outside who is more real to her than those who are on the inside. So God has to open up her eyes so that she can realize that she is surrounded by help. She's encircled by help. She has been, a hedge has been built around her in the spirit. Okay? Y'all stop circling her now. Y'all, keep in a circle form, but just stop moving for a moment and back up. Just back up about. Keep backing up, keep back. Now, I want you 3 to come in, and I want you to circle her. These 3, let me tell you what they represent. They represent problems. They represent trouble. They represent trials. They represent dilemmas. They represent memories. They represent the burdens that she carries all day and all night. They are in her circle. The rest of y'all get that outer circle going now. Now, they are in her circle, and because they are in her circle, she can't see that she's got help because she's so busy seeing the trouble and seeing the situation. She can't see that the Spirit is there to help her because all she sees is the flesh. All she sees, she can't see those on the outer circle who are for her because all she sees is those on the inner circle who are against her. Woo! Now y'all got one big circle going and you're totally out of order. I need you 3, Anna, Rose, and Lana, you get on the outside. You and you on the outside. No, Rose, you're with them. Now, y'all done got me confused. Now, circle around her close, close, close. Now, y'all are the bigger circle, okay? Y'all following me right there? She can't see that help is right there because she sees everything else in her face. That makes me think of a prophet in the Bible days who had a servant, and he sent his servant out to see what was going on. And when his servant went out to see, he saw that the city had been surrounded by an army. And he went back in and he reported to Elisha. And Elisha said to him, "Do not fear, for those that are with us are more more than those that are against us. And Elisha prayed, and he said, Lord, open Tina's eyes so she can see beyond the army, beyond the fight, beyond the trouble, beyond the flesh, so that she can see that in the spirit realm she has an angelic host that is fighting on her behalf, and he's been there all the time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Lord, have mercy. Tell somebody, he's been there all the time. He's been there all the time. Acknowledge him. I dare you to acknowledge him. I dare you to talk to him. I dare you to recognize him. I dare you to salute him. I dare you to praise him. I dare you to worship him. I dare you to sing to him. And if you will, he will direct your. So some of us, when we come to church, we don't struggle with worship because that's what we do at home. We worship to see past trouble. We worship to see past sickness. We worship to see past our adversaries. We press to tap into the spirit, for to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Your peace is in the spirit. Press into the spirit. Your joy is in the spirit. Your victory is in the spirit. Your creativity is in the spirit. Your life is in the spirit. Your deliverance is in the spirit. Now I know why the devil fights us like he fights us, because he wants to keep us out of the spirit. I dare you to hit somebody and say, let's step over into the spirit. Everything you need is in the spirit. Break through it. Break through it. Break through the trouble. Break through the adversary. Break through the wall. Break through the barrier. Break through the hindrance. Break through the opposition. Break through your self-conscious spirit and step over into the spirit. Don't move. Don't move, because I'm done. The problem with the church today is that people don't stay in church long enough to press into the spirit. They don't stay in worship long enough. See, we come into his gates with thanksgiving. We come into his courts with praise. We're thankful unto him and we bless his name. Those two levels are about him. But when you pass into that third dimension and you start tapping into glory, that's about you. That's where God supplies all of your needs. So we come to church grumpy. We don't want to say nothing. We're cold. Don't be warming me up with no praise and worship. And then we come in like depressed, and we go out just as depressed as we were when we came in. Because number one, we didn't do it in order. We didn't come in crossing the threshold saying, Lord, I thank you. Lord God, I thank you. I thank you for what you've done in my life. I thank you that I made it. I made it to the sanctuary. I thank you. I thank you, Lord. I thank you for what is going on in this room. Oh, and as you press beyond that dimension, you tap into worship. Lord, I thank you just for being who you are. You're faithful. Lord, you're faithful. You're merciful. Lord, you're full of kindness. Oh, you love me with an everlasting love. And then you get beyond that point and you tap into glory. When you tap into glory, sometimes you ain't got a whole lot to say, because that is where the real act is taking place. That is where the real connection is being made. You have stepped out of the flesh and you are now into the spirit. But because we don't want to press, and I understand why the devil fights that, because once you step into that dimension, whoo, every foe is defeated. Oh God, what's that verse? There is a path. Bishop, you tell me, there's a path in Job something. Job, what's the scripture? What is it? No, I know, what's it say? There is a path that no lion's whelp has passed. Oh, Job 29:28. Hurry, y'all, my time. Hurry. Job 29:28. Y'all awake? Job 29:28. Anyway, while they're finding him, what I'm trying to say to you is that there is a place, there is a dimension in God where those troubles that are circling like vultures around your life, they can't find you, they can't reach you, they can't touch you. Woo! There is a highway, there is a path. Lord, do we know where Job 20? Anybody in this church can help their pastor out? It's not Job 28. Hold on. Maybe it ain't your fault. Maybe it's the bishop's fault. Hold on. There is a path. There is a place. But here's the problem. We don't stay there long enough to press into that. See, when I was coming up in church, we had to tarry. Y'all know what, does anybody know what tarry means? I realize that the Spirit has come, but there is a place, there is a path, there is a highway, there is a path that no bird knows, nor has the falcon's eye seen it. Do you all see that? There is a path that no vulture is going to be able to reach you or snatch you or harm you. Woo. It's a highway. It's that highway called holiness. And when you can live on that place and on that level and in that zone and press to be in there, the proud lions have not trodden it, nor has the fierce lion passed over it. The path no bird knows, nor the falcon's eye seen it. Listen, we have to press into that place. You got to press into that zone. Problem with us is we got to be out too quick. So therefore, we have a form of godliness, but we deny the power thereof. Because if God doesn't do it real quick and in a hurry, then our fleshly mind, we got to go, we got to eat. We're supposed to meet at the restaurant at such as I got to go to the mall, I got to go home, I got to take a nap, I got up for the early morning service. So we give up on having an encounter with God. But if we would ever get as hungry in the Spirit as we are in the flesh, I'm telling you, the power of God would fall in our midst and our lives would never be the same again. I'm closing with this. Worship moves us from just being in church to being in His presence. Worship moves us from just being in church to being in His presence. If I'm going to get up and come out, I want to be in His presence. Thank you, Jesus. There ought to be a press in your spirit. And you know what? Especially those times, Tina says, lift your hands and praise Him all over this building. Especially those times that you're like, oh, I do not feel like doing that today. That is when you need to get them up as high as you can get them. Because the opposition is only a sign that you are close to that breakthrough. The enemy's gonna fight you, but you gotta keep pressing and keep reaching so that you can obtain. Listen, and throughout the week, don't live so carnally minded that when it comes time for us to press into that spiritual realm, that you can't go and you can't get there because you've been so far away from it all week long that it's so foreign that when you come in here, you feel like you don't have a right to enter in. It's all a trick of the enemy. Just stop living carnally minded. Somewhere during the day, stop, pause, build an altar, talk to God. Say, I want to be in touch, God. I want to be in touch with you, who is all powerful, and me, who is nothing without you. See, some people are too full of pride, so they can't reach for Him. They can't tell God. I might tell Him I love Him, but tell Him I need Him? Are you kidding me? No, everybody has got to get to the point where we say, God, I need you. I just need you. Sometimes that's easier for women Sometimes that's easier for women. I don't know why it's like that. But as a man, I challenge you to come before God just as you are. Say, God, I need you. I can't do it without you. I can't do this job. I can't raise my family. I don't have the answers for my children. I don't know what to do with my wife. I need you in my life. And if you'll let him know you need him, he'll be there to help you. Every head bowed, every eye closed.